What are we whispering about?
We moved to the front then. We moved to the front of the pub to have a drink. And I was sat there and I felt like something had followed me. And I looked up the ceiling and I could see this mist creeping across the ceiling. It was like this swirling smoke.
Oh my god, this is really terrifying.
In the air, by the sea, from the land, and within you and me. Fairies are whispering. Have you been coloured, confused, completely captivated, and craving clarity? This is Claire Casely, and I am a fairy whisperer. To catch a whisper, you have to listen closely. Listen with me. Hello and welcome to the Fairy Whispering Podcast. Happy Halloween! Sometimes my guests have ghost stories to tell, as well as fairy experiences. So I've decided to gather together some of my favourites from the last couple of years for you to enjoy. If you enjoy this episode, please like, subscribe and share with a friend. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram, Fairy Whispering Podcast, and to contact the show if you'd like to be a guest or have a fairy experience to share or want to collaborate with me in some way, email clairefairywhisperer@gmail.com, and all those details are in the description for this episode. I love ghost stories, and as a child I enjoyed telling ghost stories to my friends because the paranormal has intrigued me for as long as I can remember. Our first story comes from Paul Rendell, who is a Dartmoor guide and editor of Dartmoor News magazine. I met with Paul and walked and talked with him about his ghostly experiences and other stories from Dartmoor. Light a candle, wrap yourself in a blanket, get cozy and enjoy these spooky offerings for Halloween. So with me today is Paul Rendell, who is writing a book about Dartmoor ghost stories.
My first weird experience is when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
I was at school and I was in the classroom and something told me to go home.
Oh.
I ran home a mile. The teacher shouted at me, come back, come back, come back. I ran home, opened the front door, and Mum was falling down the stairs.
Oh.
That's my first weird experience. And ever since, I've had things I cannot explain. I do not believe in ghosts, but I've had weird experiences. It has to be a ghost or something supernatural.
And
So-
how was your mum? Did she recover?
Oh,
from
she was
her fall?
fine, yeah.
Yeah.
No, she went off to hospital, she was fine.
Wow.
But no, it's just something told me there. My mum's had experiences, but my dad never did. So I've
Okay.
got it from my mum. weird experiences I've had. So I've always been interested, and I've started researching, talking to other people.
Yeah.
Start writing down stories.
So what other experiences have you had with the supernatural then since that first one you had?
A few years ago I was driving from Plymouth back to Oakhampton to where I live at 11 o'clock at night, just outside of Mary Tavy, and it was a dark, misty and drizzle night.
Yeah.
So I was driving across the open moors at 20 miles an hour, and I'm convinced I saw a man in the middle of the road.
Oh,
I put the brakes on.
Yeah.
I went straight through him. I felt the impact. I got out with a torch, started looking on the road. I could see nothing, no sign of anything. Drove home, phoned the police. The police went there the next day, and they said they can find no body, no human, no animals.
Yeah.
But I had a dent in the car.
Gosh.
I cannot explain what happened.
That's amazing that it was something that wasn't physical.
I didn't. No, it was just nothing there. Nothing. No one found anybody, animal, human.
But it left a dent in the car.
Left a dent in the car.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I cannot explain that.
And what did the figure look like? Do you have
It was
an image of
dark shape. It was a dark night. Dark shape. Had a black, dark navy blue coat on.
Okay. Yeah.
And a hat. And not a modern cap or anything. A proper, like a top hat or something like that. It was a strange hat.
Oh.
An old-fashioned person.
Yeah.
Looked like. Yeah. I just put the brakes on and didn't stop.
Did you see their features?
Not really. No. It was just the outline. It all happened within seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just seconds. It was only a yard in front of me when I hit it, before I put the brake on. So I can just not explain what happened.
And what was the dent? Where was the dent on your car?
The dent on the car was on the front, and if it was a body, it would have hit sort of at the waist.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it's like as your car went through it.
I went through.
Wow.
I got a dent. It wasn't a big dent, it was a small dent. And it wasn't there.
Our next ghost story comes from my guest, Jayne Pearl, who is a shamanic practitioner and life coach. I met with Jayne in the summer of 2023 at Dartington Hall in Devon. Jayne and I are stood by Alla Park, which used to be a boarding school. And I was walking by, and I get a real strong feeling around this place being haunted. And Jayne used to be based here, didn't you?
Yeah.
Tell me what it was again.
It was the Alla Park project. It was actually something that was formed by David Matthews, who is a Totnes astrologer. He's very well known in the area. It was a vision of his actually to try and get Alla Park back into a fully restored building so that it could be used for the community, for learning and all that, alternative learning and all of that. But didn't quite get that far, unfortunately. But we had a lovely time here for a couple of years. So yeah, we had a few rooms at the front there where I used to do all sorts of workshops, and David used to do a lot of his astrology workshops and all of that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just wonderful. We had lots of people coming in doing different things.
Yeah.
But as part of that, we used to do torchlight tours of Alla Park because it's disused. Okay, it's a shame because it's such a beautiful building. Everything is boarded up on the inside, and there's not electricity in most of the building. So we used to do these tours. We didn't charge for them. It was just literally to show people what was in there. And we used to have security guards come with us. That's the only way we could do it. And they used to take us round to different parts of it. So it's obviously very spooky because it's really dark and you're going into all these little corridors and windy rooms. And we went downstairs into the basement where the kitchen used to be originally for the boarding school. And as I went down there, I could feel this presence long before we'd got down the bottom of the stairs. And I'm thinking, do I really want to go down there? And I thought, yeah, I do. So I went down with everybody. in the kitchen area, there's a kind of like an area off to the left side, which I think must have been a pantry or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I'd go and have a look in there. So as I walked in there, I was met by this presence of this school matron, standing there looking very, very cross and very stern, because how dare these people come into her space. And she was very, very clear. So she had like a long like brown dress with an apron over the top of it, and very stern looking. So that is one spirit that I encountered. And I haven't encountered the child one, but they tell me that there's a boy spirit here as well, that I haven't met him, but a lot of people have. And there are various others as well.
It really feels like there's someone looking out the windows.
Yes, it does. I know, exactly. I always used to get that. I still get that. You feel it, don't you? So strongly. Yeah.
My whole body is like pins and needles.
It's an incredible place, because although it's like, dilapidated on the outside and it looks like it's crumbling, inside you've got these most gorgeous Art Deco bathrooms. And they are completely perfect. It's like a time capsule. So you've got the great big baths, great big sinks, beautiful tiles. You can only see it with torchlight, but it's absolutely incredible. Just for that reason alone, it should be preserved properly. Not allowed to just crumble away. And then what's going to happen, I don't know. It's just such a shame. But lots and lots of spirits in here, definitely. Yeah.
Right.
When we used to do the workshops, and I did some of my angel workshops and nature workshops in those rooms, sometimes things would be moving around, and I know it wasn't me. I know I hadn't put it there, but it had moved to a different place. So all of that used to go on.
Yeah.
What are you feeling, Claire? I know you're feeling presence, but what are you feeling?
I just feel like this whole building has got this really... It feels a bit foreboding.
Yes.
Presence.
Yeah, on some level, yes, it does. That's the housekeeper, matron type person in the basement. She's foreboding. There's also another one that feels really bad. Right up in the eaves, which used to be the caretaker's apartment. Yeah, right up the top there. That's not a pleasant place to go.
No.
It really isn't. But they're guardians.
Yeah,
That's all
they're
they are.
guardians.
They're guardians of this place.
They are definitely looking after this place. Melanie Stevens, a complementary therapist and life coach, came on the podcast and shared with me her story of a childhood experience of seeing a ghostly horse in her bedroom. I just want to go back because you mentioned childhood experiences. Would you mind sharing some of those?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So, like many people that are sort of spiritually aware, I had experiences as a child, and they frightened the life out of me, and I shut them off. And I think a few people have had something similar. So I was an extremely sensitive child, and this is where my anxieties, I think, came from, because I just struggled to cope with the world. And when I was 6 years old, this was the first time I actually saw something. I was in my bedroom at home with mum and dad had gone to bed, and my brother was asleep, and I was being a little bit naughty because I should have gone to bed and gone to sleep, but I was wide awake this night, which is very unusual for me. I don't remember this being a regular thing. My dad had tucked me in and gone to bed, and I just thought, no, I'm not tired. So I sat up, and I'd got these stickers that in the 80s you could get stickers that were filled with air, so they felt quite nice to press. So because I'm quite tactile, I was touching these stickers and pushing them in and making them make noises and stuff. And then all of a sudden, I heard a horse's hooves walking along like a cobbled street. Completely random. I wasn't into horses as a child, never ridden one until I was like in my 20s. So I turned round, and in my bedroom wall, like a window appeared that wasn't actually there normally. I could see a horse pulling a cart on like an old cobbled street, which wasn't my actual street, wasn't old or cobbled at all. So it was very random. And I'm 6 years old. I didn't know what to do. I was a bit freaked out by it. So I've got this very loud noise of the horse's hooves in my head, and then a horse appeared in front of me in my bedroom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, full-size horse, and I'm 6 and I'm tiny, and it was a brown horse, beautiful horse, that kind of faded in. It didn't like that appear. It like faded in, stood looking at me. I was like frozen looking at it in shock, and then it just kind of faded out and disappeared, and then the noise stopped. It all happened in like 20 seconds probably. And I remember getting out of bed, and I walked over to where the horse had been, and I did that to see if I could feel it, because it was physically there in front of me. And I put my hands through the air. There was nothing there. Visibly, it had gone. I went running into my parents' bedroom crying because I was really scared, and I didn't sleep for many weeks after that. So it did. I mean, now I would completely welcome that experience because I would understand a bit more about it. But it did terrify me. So I didn't see anything in front of me after then until much later. But I think that's because I shut it down, because I just couldn't cope with it. I was too sensitive to be able to handle it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about as well the state of mind you're in, because you said you were pushing in those puffy stickers. I mean, I remember those in the 80s, the puffy stickers and scented rubbers, and it's very sort of sensory stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So like, you almost sounds like you're in a very meditative state, and then that's when this window opened onto this parallel reality. If that's what ghosts are, I mean, I feel that it's like a snapshot into other times rather than something, a remnant of the past, if you see what I mean. That's what I feel it is. I don't know what you feel. Well. Yeah.
And for me, it is because everything's happening simultaneously. Of course, we find it difficult to get our heads around that, which is why we experience linear time. Our minds have to be able to make sense of the world and what's happening. But we talk about past lives, which I believe are happening now. Everything's happening now. And I believe, because I've seen a few things in meditation since, that the horse was with me in another life. I was hearing that. Or it was a horse in spirit who wanted to come back and say hello, because I've been with that horse in another life.
Yeah.
I just didn't recognise it in my physical form now.
Isn't that amazing that the horse recognised you? Like it saw you there. It wasn't like you were just walking past each other, not aware of each other's existence. It acknowledged you.
Yeah, it was definitely a visit. It stood there and looked at me. So it definitely, the horse knew I was there. As much as I knew the horse was there. Which, if it happened now, I would attempt to communicate, because I'm learning animal communication now. Actually, I'm doing a course, and I would attempt to communicate with it. But at 6 years old, I didn't, and I didn't really have any. We didn't have pets, so it didn't make sense to me that it would be an animal that visited me, because most of the pets we tried to have, my mum was allergic to them. We struggled to have animals, so I wasn't even at the time. I love animals now, and I've been surrounded by them my whole adult life, but as a child I wasn't. So there was no logical explanation for a horse choosing to visit me in this lifetime, unless we had been connected on a different plane, or we still are connected on a different plane. Yeah. Connection with that horse, but not in this physical lifetime. So very interesting.
Have you ever tried to re-establish that connection?
I have asked questions about why has the horse come through, and then I've had a reading from a medium, and she said, "Oh, I've literally just seen a horse's face, and I've no idea why." And so I had that little, it's like they're dangling a carrot, sort of encouraging me to keep going with it. So now I'm doing animal communication.
Yeah,
I'm still learning it, but I know how to do it. So I might actually connect and see if I can make contact.
Yeah, perhaps he or she is some kind of a guide for you, maybe.
Yeah, I'm wondering that, a power animal, but
Yeah.
with some sort of connection to me from some lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very powerful ally for you, isn't it? And yeah, I was just talking to somebody yesterday. We were talking about fairies and fairy experiences and how some people never see anything, never see a fairy or a ghost or whatever in their life, but maybe feel presences. And I said my sort of take on it, she agreed, is that these beings show up perhaps visibly sometimes or show signs in other ways, just like you say, to encourage us to keep trusting that we're on the right path, or just say, look, yeah, we are still here. Keep going. So like your horse, maybe, if all time is happening at once, then, it's very much a present being for you now as it was when you were 6. It's just there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it's a horse as well, I mean, for me, I always keep in mind that everything is energy. Nothing is actually as we perceive it to be. This is just our human senses. Everything is energy. And the horse's energy is that of power and strength. So maybe that is my power animal, because that's the energy I need to tap into in this lifetime. And if you're seeing fairies, maybe you need that playful, light, joyful energy in your life. Maybe that will benefit you more. And maybe this changes. Maybe the power animal or the power being that we're presented with at one point in our life might sort of fulfill its purpose. And then we're presented with a different, because again, it's fairy energy is different to horse energy, is different to, spirit energy or a loved one's energy. Just as we've got our own personalities and our own type of energy, so have all of these other beings. And they're all here to help and support us if we want them to.
In 2022, I met with my guest Chris on Dartmoor. Chris has had years of wandering the moor and has had many strange experiences during his adventures. My friend and fellow pixie comrade Henry Everett joined me for this adventure, and he is a future guest on the podcast coming up soon. Enjoy this next tale. It's a spooky one.
Another weird story I had, thinking about it, I was coming back across, I've been at Letterbox today, I was parked at Whitework, tin mine, and I'd gone all up Swinkham, round the back of Foxtor, and I was coming back, my last letterbox was off of Goldsmith Cross. And then I've got a choice of either go up and follow the leak back around a sunny corner and back down to Whiteworks, or cut across the mire. So I decided to cut across the mire. I was familiar with the path vaguely. I'd done it 2 or 3 times before, and then the mist was all down, and then the mist come a old boy with a long coat on with a bit of twine, a bit of like twine around, coat together, and real deep Devonshire accent dialect type thing, was like, "You be crossing the mire, boy?" I'm like, "Yes." "You follow me, boy, I'll show you." I followed him all the way across, and all of a sudden he just disappeared. And he didn't live in none of the houses there, because it was only the end cottage that's used. The others belong to Plymouth School. It's like a outdoor activity centre.
Yeah. Which mire was this?
Foxtor.
Foxtor.
Or Great Grimpen Mire, according to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another one I have.
When was that? When did that happen?
I haven't letterboxed now for about 30 years.
Right, so 30
Not
years.
properly, so it's got to be 30 years ago. It's got to be back sort of late 80s, early 90s. Because 95 I had my accident, so I haven't really letterboxed. I've done a bit by roads for people. I've met strange people on the moor who I've not been able to, sort of like horsemen, from a distance, but then all of a sudden they were there and then they weren't. And I didn't see any tracks when I went over there. When I went past where they were supposed to be, where I thought I saw them, I didn't see any hoofs or anything. Whether they were there or not, I don't know. Whisper's Wood's one of my favourite places. There's always something strange going on up there. I think it's just the way you have this subconscious that it's a weird place.
Yeah.
Whist house.
Yes.
And you hear something, even he does, because his ears go up. His ears would go up and he would look. And then he'd look at me, and then he'd look back where the noise was. It does that a lot with us. Okay, 99 times 100 is probably animals. But there are the odd one or two that, if he barks, he's letting me know somebody are coming down, I reckon.
I don't know, he's watching something intently.
Yeah, a lot of people come along the bottom here and struggle.
And could I record your Jay's grave story that you had?
Oh, that was CB radio days. Crumbs, where was I then? Exeter. You know the story of Kitty Jay?
Yes.
She was like a scullery kitchen maid. The farmer's son got her pregnant, promised her the earth and everything, and then rebuked her, and she lost her job because she got pregnant. They didn't believe it was a farmer's lad. She hung herself in the barn, like Canna farm.
Sad.
And back in those days, people who committed suicide were not buried on consecrated ground, so they were always buried at the parish crossroads. That's where she is now. Well, she was, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think it was in the early 1970s. They were widening the road, and the roadman uncovered a box with bones in it. They took the bones, done tests on them, and they were of a young female, and they were reinterred in the Widdicombe churchyard. So that's the story of Kitty Jay's grave. Yeah, we were right on the moors, and we parked up cars on the side of Jay's grave. We were talking to people all over the world. But the flowers during the night had changed, and we saw nobody. The flowers had totally changed. And I don't understand why. That is a legend as well, that there's fresh flowers put on it every day.
Yeah.
And people leave all kinds of trinkets and piskies and pixies.
Our final story comes from Jim Albro, who I visited in the spring of 2023 because Jim has recorded various anomalies in her garden and amazing video captures of nature spirits. Jem shares a story about her auntie's haunted hotel in North Devon, which then reminded me of a ghostly experience I'd had in the same location. If you want to hear the episodes with Jem and her garden full of fairies, there's 3 episodes called A Place Like Gnome. Enjoy these final stories.
Because what happened is earlier in the day I'd gone up to the room because this hotel was it used to be a private family home or a hunting lodge, and it's in the middle of nowhere. They have to go through these dark winding roads all overgrown by the trees to get to it, and then eventually you get to it, and it's a white hotel. It's probably about the size of like a Fawlty Towers hotel as well, you know, if you've watched that. That's what used to make me laugh, but it got about 12 bedrooms, something like that. But I remember it's an Edwardian house, I think, and I went up the main staircase and into one of the rooms where we were staying, the family room. And as I opened the door, there was an orb hovering over the centre of the bed, and it shot off straight away. So I was like, oh, okay, I see you. But anyway, I carried on into the room and got my phone charger or whatever it was I wanted, and then I left the room and went back downstairs. And that place, you always felt like you were being watched all the time. I grew up in a house that felt that there was the same, Hobbernose Farm. You were always being watched, so I know the feeling. Like where I live, it's lovely. We do get visitations every now and again, but there's nothing that resides in the house. So anyway, and then later that night, much later, everybody was in bed. So it's a family room. So as you go in, you've got the double bed, and then there's a little alcove you go through, and then there's 2 single beds for the kids. So they were asleep in bed, and Dan was asleep, and the room's pitch black. But I'm just getting undressed, and I get in bed, and then I get my phone out, and I text my sister. It was about 10:30 at night, 11, and the room's pitch black. And I said to Kate, "There's somebody in this room. I know there is. I know they're over there." So because I'm lying on the right side of the bed, Dan's on the left, and I knew there was somebody in the corner of the room near to where Dan was. So Kate said, "Oh, why don't you take a picture with the flash on?" I was like, "No, I don't want to." She said, "Go on, it'll be fine. I'll be with you. You can do it." So I was like, "Fine." So I took a picture, and there's what looks like a energy form spirit of a human shape that looks like they're wearing like something over their head, like a bit of material. So I sent it to Kate, and she was like, "Oh, sorry, you're on your own there." But I took another one like immediately after, and you can see like a couple of orbs, and then I took another one and another one and another one, and I ended up taking about 20 pictures trying to reenact it, and there was nothing there. It had gone, but I knew it was there. I couldn't see it because it was pitch black, but I knew it had been there definitely. But here's the picture of it. That's the orbs afterwards. Where is it? There it is.
Oh no!
So you can see it. It stood at the end of the bed, basically on Dan's feet.
Oh, I see.
There.
Yeah.
And that's an orb. That's a reflection of the mirror there. So that mirror.
Yeah.
But that's one of the orbs. And then when I took...
Gone. Yeah.
There is one where's the orbs? Oh, and then the next one I took, you can see these lights here.
Oh yeah.
Like, so I don't know if that's the energy dispersing or something, because it's thinking, oh no, I've been caught. But you can clearly see it.
Yeah.
And what we found out later was, months later, we found out that this room used to belong to a little girl that lived in the house, was the daughter of the master or the owner of the house. And there used to be a nun that was her, what do you call it when they had somebody that was their teacher?
Not a nanny.
What's that word? Jayne Eyre, she was one. Governess, yeah. So she had a governess who was a nun. So I found that really interesting because it almost looks like it could be like somebody that's wearing like a habit or it could be, or it could just be, an energy, but it's just the lines are so straight as well. But that was that. But there were lots of terrifying things that happened in that hotel. Terrifying. I'm glad that they sold it because I used to lie there literally with the sheet over my face. I couldn't sleep all night. The other thing that happened there, the same night that I had that vision dream, was I had 3 dreams in a row, and the first one I won't talk about. It was something to do with the D word, and that's all I'll say. So if you talk about it, you give it energy. And then the second one was also equally not very nice, and I think that was somebody. I think that was somebody that used to live in the house, and they were telling me their story. Possibly the spirit that was in that room where we were staying. This is a different bedroom that we were staying in, because my auntie Pat used to move us in the different. She's like, "I'll try you in this room this time," because every time I slept, something happened.
There's a ghost in that one.
Something. But we were in this room. I mean, the room we stayed in. On a separate occasion, Dan and I had heard a woman's voice in the bathroom, because they all had their own en-suites. We were just chatting. We were in the bedroom chatting again, getting phone charges or something, and we heard a woman's voice in the bathroom, and it was something. She made a noise like a something like that. That was clearly from the bathroom. There was nothing. When you looked out the windows, you were overlooking a lower story of the house, and there was nothing next to it. I mean, and the walls were really thick as well. It was a really old building. But anyway, so that had happened a few times. But that night, I've also had somebody walk around the bed in that room as well. I'm pretty sure it's the female spirit that's in there. But that night that I had those 3 dreams, so the last one was the vision dream with my guide to my left saying, "They're always there, you just can't see them," as in the unseen world. And then then that changed to me being in the actual... So I'm still dreaming, but I'm dreaming that I'm stood in the bathroom. So how the bathroom is, so I'm asleep here, and then the door to the bathroom is right next to me on the right. And then the sink, which I'm going to tell you about, is right behind the wall, behind my head.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm dreaming that I'm stood in the sink, at the sink, looking at myself in the mirror, but I'm not really looking at myself. I'm looking down at the sink, and I'm trying to clean it, because you know when men shave and then they drain the water and it leaves all the bristles around the edge. There was the sink looked like it was dirty with that, so I'm cleaning the sink, and that's what I'm doing in my dream. And then the next minute, I'm awake because I hear what sounded like. So I wake up from the stream with a start, because it sounded like somebody had thrown a big heavy bottle of shampoo or something in the bath. And obviously, because it's right behind my head and the door's open as well, it was really loud, so it woke me up, and I was like, oh, I heard that. Did I hear that, or was I just dreaming? And the next minute, I'm awake at this point. I hear the tap in the bathroom twist, and it turns on, and then I hear the water start to run out of the tap. Yeah. It was terrifying, honestly. So I lay there for a second. I thought, is that the water? I know it's the water. And then I look, and I can hear Dan breathing. He's asleep. And then I can hear Harry and Scarlett there in the room, so I can hear them both asleep. So then, proper Yvette Fielding style, I got my phone out, and I thought, I'm just going to be brave, and I'm going to investigate it, and I'm going to video it. I don't know where it is on my phone now, but so I did. I walked into the bathroom, and the tap's on, and it's like an old, it's like a classic. It's like a big bulbous ends 5-point tap, like an old one. You know what I mean? Beautiful old sink that's got some it's got a bit of detail, like a bit of steps down on it if you're around the frame, the edge. You can tell it's old, and it's a large sink as well. Anyway, so I turn the tap off, and there's nothing out of place in the bathroom. There is no shampoo bottle that's been chucked in the bath, or there's nothing. But anyway, so that's that. So me and my auntie, we were the other part of the house, which has got like quite a large breakfast dining room, and then there was a little galley, that led from there, and it went into the kitchen. So anyway, we sat in this dining room right at the back in the corner, and we were asking out, saying, is anybody there? Can you come and talk to us? And nothing happened for about 5 or 10 minutes. So then we stopped trying, and then we were just chatting to each other, and all of a sudden we could hear this banging, and it was like an erratic banging as well, and it was coming from the kitchen, but we could hear this banging. So, and we stopped and listened for a while, and it's just like this erratic banging. It's either coming from the kitchen or the galley bit. But we sat there for ages asking if Bob, because Bob was meant to be the chap, people had seen him before, and Bob was the chap that used to own the hotel, and people had said that they'd seen him and they could smell cigarettes, because it was in the 70s when he owned this hotel, and people had said that they could smell cigarette smoke and things like that, and heard a male voice, and there was all sorts of things that happened in this hotel. Anyway, so we were asking out for Bob, and then nothing happened. But eventually it did happen, the banging happened, and we ended up going through that way. We didn't find anything, but as we came back round through and came back through the dining room and we got to the front of the galley area, and there was a massive bang like that. So my auntie Jill turned around and ran off and left me. But what's funny about that is that she had a walker at the time. She couldn't really walk, let alone run. But she did. She went off and left me.
Oh my god!
Yeah. But I'm really glad that, because it's the one place. It was truly terrifying. There was definitely some negative. There was a girl there that was my auntie's friend, and she used to work for her as well. And she did the changeovers of the rooms, and she was on by herself one day, and my auntie came back and found her in the car park, and she was shaking and she was terrified. And what had happened is, when she'd been on her own, she'd been in the corridor. They've got, like, in between the rooms, they've got a cupboard where all the linen was stored. So she was in there, and she'd just come out or something like that. And it's quite a long corridor. And as she was coming out of the room, these footsteps charged at her from one end and went right past her, and then went out of the emergency fire escape And she said that she stood back like that against the wall as they went past because of the ferocity of the footsteps that were so loud and how fast they were going. It just really felt like somebody was running, charging past her. So, and then, I think that's the worst thing that ever happened to her. But yeah, she stayed in the car and she doesn't really get scared easily either, I think. So it must have been quite terrifying, especially, if you're on your own. But anyway, thank God I don't have to go back to that place.
Before I go, I'll just tell you my ghost story from North Devon.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. Yeah. So when would this be? About 2001. And I was with a boyfriend and we went to stay up in Linton. Yeah. And we went...
Know it.
Yeah, and we went out for the night in Lynmouth.
Know it.
Okay.
Very well. Yeah.
I always get a spooky feeling about that place. Anyway, we went to this pub and we sat in the back bar to have a meal. And behind us there was a restaurant, but there was no one in the restaurant. And I was just intrigued by this restaurant. I felt pulled to go and check it out, and I walked in there. It's just very cold, no one was in there. I thought, this doesn't feel very welcoming. And then at the other end of the restaurant there was a doorway, and I was drawn to this doorway, so I went out through the doorway and it took me out to like a hallway with a staircase. And I looked up and I felt like someone was looking down on me. And then there was a doorway into a library, and I went into this library, and the atmosphere in there was so heavy and thick. It was like the room was full of mist, that sort of intense atmosphere that's just... If you can imagine like walking into a room where two people have been like fighting or having like a really intense argument. Mm-hmm. That was the atmosphere. The atmosphere was so thick I could see it. It was like mist. And I came back to where my boyfriend was sat. I said, God, it's really weird out there, so I'm sure this place is haunted. So I asked one of the young serving people, and I said, is this place haunted? And she sort of very reluctantly sort of said, well, yeah. She said, we are having some problems with one of the rooms upstairs.
Oh.
Which was directly up the stairs that I was looking at. And she said, yeah, we've had to stop guests staying in there. She said, but we're not allowed to really speak about it because the management have said told us not to speak about it. I was like, right, okay. We moved to the front then. We moved to the front of the pub to have a drink. And we were sat there and I felt like something had followed me. And I looked up to the ceiling and I could see this mist creeping across the ceiling. It was like this swirling smoke.
Oh my God, this is really terrifying.
I said to my boyfriend, I said, it's followed us. I said, it's followed me. I said that don't feel comfortable, and we had our bikes. I've never pedalled so quickly back to where we were staying. After leaving there, I had this impression that this, whatever it was trying to attach to me, and I felt that it was like an angry spirit of a man.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm getting chills. Something like that happened to me once. I got taken over by a spirit, and in my mind's eye I saw the corridor of the bar that we were sat in, the pub. The corridor flashed into my mind for some reason. I've said this story on Joe's podcast, but I was just sat there just chatting to my friend, and for some reason the image of the corridor flashed into my mind, and I knew there was, I wouldn't say a mist, but I knew there was something at the end of the corridor, but I just ignored it. I thought, why did I think about that? And then the next minute I got these pins and needles, and then there was this sobbing that was coming out of me. It wasn't my voice, it wasn't my consciousness, because my brain was still thinking la 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 la, and there's this, but then I had the most horrendous feeling of doom and just distraught. It was horrible. And then as soon as I left the building, stepped into the car park through the threshold, feeling had gone instantly. It gone. But anyway, So, but when you said about that mist coming towards me, that's just really terrified me. I mean, did you run off straight away when you saw it? I mean, did you just like put your cutlery down and grab your bag and run? But...
Yeah, well, we were sat with drinks at the front of the pub. And so it was like rolling across the ceiling.
And it was black, swirling.
It was like swirling grey.
That is definitely
mist.
not good news at all. It needs...
Wasn't.
That was, what, 2001? That needs...
2001.
I hope somebody bless that place.
I do. I've never been back. It fascinates me, though. It's like I want to go back.
That's something really negative. Very negative that was coming.
Yeah. And I had dreams about it, about this man, and I thought, this isn't good. This isn't good. And that's when I didn't really know about spirit world very much.
That's terrifying. That's really giving me the chills. And it doesn't happen very often. Oh my God. That's not far away from where my Auntie Pat's hotel was. That's like a 5-minute car journey.
Well, this is what made me think, because I thought this is a very haunted...
See, deep as dark as North Devon, you see, all those windy lanes, lots of big trees. I mean, where they were was on the coast, but not far. I mean, we used to go there quite a lot, especially when my kids were little. We used to go on the railway.
Spooky place.
Yes. Very. Yeah. Anyway, back to the fairies.
Sleep well.
Yeah.
La, la, la.
Happy Halloween, everyone, and see you all again soon.